Yo ho ho and a bottle of ew. Ever wonder what pirates did when they weren't stumbling upon treasure and gold, or having all the swashbuckling fun you could think of? Putting it bluntly, it was a downright disgusting lifestyle. Here's why. While being a pirate had its benefits, the conditions that come with the job aren't the best. For firsts, you're sharing space with a bunch of guys who hadn't showered for quite a while. Yeah, grim. Then, the aging wooden ship that creaks with every wave, the smells of stale rum and unwashed pirates. Think of a locker room after a varsity football on a wet and muddy pitch. Yeah, that for months. Oh, and forget your plush bed. Instead, you're treated to a rough and splintery wooden plank. Just some 5-star service at its finest. And when the call of nature becomes too urgent to ignore, well, with no obvious toilet in sight, a more creative solution was thought up. Clinging onto the ship and hanging off the side. We said creative, not comfortable. And then there's the seasickness. Now, you'd think veteran sailors could avoid this, but it would even cripple the most experienced ones. Constant rocking and swaying would mess up their body's equilibrium, causing severe nausea, dizziness, and vomiting, otherwise known as the sickness trifecta of the seas. Something you want no part of it, we can assure you of that. So, you think this is bad? Hate to break it to you, but we're just getting started. Let's imagine a plus-sized pirate get-together. Impossible, right? Well, once pirates left port, fresh foods and vegetables were scarce, making meals really repetitive and nutrient poor. Amongst malnutrition, this caused widespread vitamin C deficiencies, resulting in scurvy and bleeding gums, sometimes even death. Yeah, just another reason why land is king. They also needed a way to preserve meat. So they'd mask it all in salt, which was smart, but made it rough to eat and hard to digest, leading to dehydration and kidney issues. Oh, and not to mention that all the food they brought on their voyages were breeding grounds for all sorts of insects and rats who just flourished in filth. Meaning diseases, plagues, you name it. Then there were the lice and fleas, all over the beds so you couldn't get a minute without feeling an itch. Pirates just didn't sanitize or clean nearly as much as they needed to. And to be fair, it was hard with how small the living spaces were. Plus, the lack of fresh water made it hard to keep things clean, and usually resulted in over-wearing clothes with all sorts of unpleasant smells. Basically, water was too precious to be used for anything but drinking. Rum was for the entertainment, and hygiene. Well, hygiene was just never part of the equation. Call me spoiled, but I'd much rather have a nicely cooked steak with my pup and a scented candle by my side than some salty, aged meat accompanied by the cast of A Bug's Life and the smell of bodily fluids. Anyways, moving on. So we already went through the hell that is scurvy and those bloody gums, but have you ever heard of dysentery? You know, when your daily excretions are joined by blood and mucus? Far from pretty, but when you mix tainted water with damaged food, you get yet another ailment for pirates to endure. I mean, at this point, they needed a fully stocked pharmacy on board. And all this medical neglect included a lack of dental care. No oral nutrition and a rum-heavy diet caused severe tooth decay and gum disease. So what was their solution for it? Ripping out rotten teeth, duh. And the good news was that they had enough rum to use as painkillers. Oh, and enough gold to make some pretty sweet replacement teeth. Bling bling. Now, the only savior the crew really had was the ship's surgeon, who was able enough to conduct some basic medical procedures. But saving someone's life on a rocky ship? Way out of their pay grade. Plus, they didn't really have adequate medical equipment just lying around. So, resorting to amputations was the most common outcome, while the sick were just given some alcohol to dim the pain. Brutal. But hey, at least they didn't have to pay for healthcare. It's no secret that pirates lived a violent life on the high seas. Cramped living cabins bred volatile atmospheres amongst the crewmates. And tensions often erupted over silly things like card games and personal grudges, a bit like a rowdy oceanic prison. And you might ask, didn't the pirates have a code or a rule book to handle disputes and disagreements? Well, here's a surprise for you. They didn't follow it, because, they're pirates. I mean, have you ever heard of a rule-following, justful, and organized pirate? Yeah, we thought so. The one plus was life as a pirate made you quite hardened and tough mentally. Just imagine witnessing limbs being cut on the daily, ribs getting shattered, and teeth being smashed below decks over the most primitive things. The amount of food and gore is just crazy to think of. But in the face of it, it made them resilient. And sure, crew chemistry might have taken a hit, but they were a stronger bunch of lads because of it, especially when battling other pirates. Pirate weaponry wasn't pleasant either. Cutlasses, muskets, hooks, and spikes all made horrific wounds in flesh and bone, and fights were usually in close quarters, making it all the gorier and more impossible for the very underqualified ship's surgeon to treat. In fact, even the smallest of injuries could be fatal because of the lack of sufficient treatment available. And the worst part? No insurance to cover job-related injuries, so you're on your own after an amputated leg and gushed arm. There you have it, folks. The life of a pirate was just not as great as you could ever have imagined. If there's anything to take from this, just remember to eat your veggies, clean your room, brush your teeth, and take regular showers, and simply forget a life at sea. We've been Conquering History. See you soon.